Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery preparing to check in on a couple of African nightcrawler worm bins. These, at the present time, are my oldest active worm bins. And it's for that reason I want to give them small particle sized foods, stuff like my worm chow, stuff like this used coffee, so that I'm almost guaranteed to see no leftovers or scraps. And that means, in the interest of no leftovers, no scraps, it also means pretty much no bedding for them. Younger bins get, fresh leaves thrown in or a bunch of shredded cardboard and paper or whatever the case may be. But here we've only been adding food and skipping the addition of bedding in the hopes that they'll continue to eat foods like the bedding, the carbon-rich paper and leafy matter that's in the system, but that they'd be focusing their attention on the old stuff that's been in here for some time and doing away with it rather than getting new. So like the top covering newspaper we had out here in bin number 2 was still holding up quite good. We've even got this one section here that's a double fold. I think it's folded over. Is it a double layer? Like over here it is. You could see for sure. It seems like we could still lay this one out if we really wanted to continue getting use out of it. Even expand some of it to get it all within, reach of worm activity instead of being folded over and part of it being sort of shielded, sheltered. So it probably does make good sense to open these up a little bit. Now we're going to have quite large size sheets of newspaper here, while over in bin number 1 we've got virtually nothing. So I do have some replacement paper. I almost wondered if we would kind of divvy up this nice worked material, perhaps half of it stay in here, half of it get donated to the other bin, and then maybe even come in with a couple fresh pieces of paper, just as a little bit of an extra supplement, because if they're enjoying it so much that there's so little of it remaining, there's, perhaps not just enjoyment, but there's, a specific need for that kind of food being present too. So, yeah, I like the idea. I like the idea of kind of rebuilding the top covering with some of this old, some of that new. And then when it comes to feeding zone indicators, though, this one's holding up well, definitely holding up well enough to just be reused. But I've got a replacement. In fact, I got 2 replacements. Kind of makes me wonder if I want to turn that into just something for the worms to nibble on as well. So, 12 days have passed since we last fed. The last feeding was number 25. And today we're up to day 290. Getting feeding number 26 after 12 days. 12 days of feeding like they're getting today, which is just worm chow and coffee. Not the sort of stuff you would expect to see leftovers of. And I'm pretty sure that that's what they got last time too. So perhaps we'll just see a whole bunch of worms really enjoying being there, because maybe they're still working down what remains of what was fed to them 12 days ago there, or something else. Just seems to me kind of hard to imagine that there'd still be leftovers of coffee and worm chow after 12 days. But you never know. You never know. So we definitely have a whole bunch of really nice stuff like this scraped off the top surface. Definitely not reusable as a top covering anymore, but certainly good as a foundational bit of bedding. We'll try divvying out everything that's here evenly, and then also using a little bit of new stuff as replacement. I think that'll be good as well. And with the that new stuff going in as big chunks, at least if at some point we want to get to migrating the worms out and separating the castings, at least those chunks of paper are large and could be removed, even if they break into little bits after a while. So that's kind of the thinking here in terms of how I'm fashioning today's feeding. Yeah. There is a lot of springtail activity in here. I could see tons of them, little tiny white specks all over the place. So all of those are springtails. Since we talked about spreading out all of this top covering stuff, which was much more abundant over here in bin number 1, into both systems, we'll throw some of that over there too. And then I don't know, do we just let this feeding zone indicator become just supplementary bedding also? All this old stuff, what the heck? I don't want to be so stingy with the carbon type food. when I'm feeding, I'm giving them coffee, warm chow. I mean, they could use some of this stuff too, so that looks like a pretty decent foundation. And nice replacement feeding zone indicators at the end. What a bonus. So these are not big feedings anymore, and especially if you're waiting 12 days between feedings. This is this stuff, I'm guessing, probably goes quite quick. Interesting to find worms always hanging out there in the middle of it. That's a pretty good amount of worm chow, I must say. There we go. I'm pretty generous with this stuff. I got plenty, and I could always make more. It's pretty easy to do. And not a very glamorous looking feeding, but a feeding that I think the worms will probably appreciate and enjoy. And slowly we'll see fewer large artifacts of bedding applications. I don't think that'll take much longer either. So let's get these systems covered up and let them get back to work. They're doing really nice. I guess we'll do a quick aerate and inspect of the outer edges as we cover up today's feeding. Everything feels really nice moisture-wise. Nothing feels like it's really clumping up. Everything's really nice and fluffy. Definitely nice. Let's see how things look over here and get this feeding zone covered up. Yeah, much of the same. These systems are definitely, I don't know, definitely appearing a lot like one another. So they're both in really great shape. Both have a little bit more work to do in terms of breaking down this residual stuff that's still floating around in them. But not a whole lot of work left for the little wormies to do. I have been thinking, since, you know, kind of a round number is right around the corner, 10 days from now, it's going to be 300 days in service for these systems. Perhaps we should just come in here on that day if we can, if the schedule permits it, for just maybe one more feeding, and then perhaps switch these systems to foraging. Kind of makes me wonder how in another 10 days some of these leaf stem leftovers are going to look. Hopefully further along. Here and there I'm bumping this. Oh, I'm already tilling through the feeding zone. Not good. All I wanted to do was aerate this closer edge of the bin next to me. Then we could use a nice new feeding zone indicator where we fed. Let's do the same over here really quick and we'll be finished. And then we can plop on a few pieces of top covering newspaper. Just little pieces at this point, almost as like a just in case it's really desperately needed. Sort of a food source. If they feel they need it, there it is. Enjoy it. Dig in. Or they could ignore it. It does seem like it gets a decent bit of attention after you place a big piece of newspaper out there and then so much of it gets chewed up. It's good to see that the worms like it. So, not very big pieces, that's for sure. Kind of glossy. Hopefully the worms don't mind nibbling on it. And I don't know, I've also got this one other piece, but so narrow. But still big enough that if it does start getting broken down, but I want to still pull it out in one piece later without becoming a big pain in the neck, it's still a pretty decent size. So that's our feeding, I think, today. Nice little quick check-in with the African nightcrawlers, my oldest systems, at day 290, getting feeding number 26. We'll probably be back here on day 300, just to check in on them, see how they're doing, maybe squeeze in one more feeding, and then maybe we'll decide to switch these systems to foraging. So we got 10 days to decide. Let's figure out then what we do next. For now, we're done. I got to get a couple things over here cleaned up and put away, obviously. I'm not going to waste your time with that. Before I go really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. If you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye now.